We are doing some catch-up notes from things that you have access to, but I know some of you prefer to hear many lectures about because you don't go over them. So here we go. We signed off talking about 4.2 and the Age of Exploration and looking at all the different maps and like how Columbus triggered all of these other explorers to want to kick into gear. And we talked about how the Portuguese were the first ones to get into the Indian Ocean basin and kind of started running the show to some extent by using force. So the Netherlands eventually wants in on this too. All these countries we really don't hear about later on in history all that much are definitely stirring things up in the Indian Ocean. So the Portuguese come in, and just like them, you have the Netherlands that want a trading post in Asia as well. So they conquer Malacca, they start seizing other places, but Malacca is a big deal because it's been this massive trading port city. The Portuguese took it over, but now the Netherlands have taken it from Portugal. So there's like a lot more tension in this region. They had a faster, cheaper, and more powerful ship than the Portuguese were able to have, which leads to, like the Dutch flout. The Dutch flout is a perfect example of that. The big thing is you have these joint stock companies that pop up. They're businesses for trade, but they run as if they're their own like mini country. So the one that the Dutch have, which that's the Netherlands, people from the Netherlands are called the Dutch. The Dutch have the United East India Company, but most people just call it the VOC. And we'll also see that there's going to be a British East India Trading Company that comes along as well, which is another joint stock company that exists at the time. They exist at the same time as each other, and they start really running the show for trade. So all these private rich merchants would use their money to start these companies with the government supporting them to, make business arrangements, get trade. You don't have to have a middleman anymore, so beneficial to everyone. But the thing was, these companies could buy, sell, build trading posts. They could even make war in the company's interest, which typically you don't see people making war unless it's a country versus a country. But in this case, you had these companies acting like countries and could go to war because they did have their own like military, basically. So here's your VOC, the Dutch Trading Company. And the Dutch really start expanding their empire. The Dutch will be so infamous because over here in Deshima, they have the only port into Japan for a very long time when the rest of Europe is pushed out. But they obviously, when people argue that the Portuguese, did they have this massive effect on the Indian Ocean? Initially, they took over a lot of stuff, but it's not long lasting, so they don't have a huge long lasting effect in the region because the Dutch come in and shake things up even more. So the Dutch, like everyone else, they want a route to Asia that doesn't include going through or around Africa. People really start believing that there's got to be an easier way. So they send the Dutch East India or the VOC company across the Atlantic and thinking there's got to be some secret water passage that cuts you through North or South America and you don't have to go around South America because, again, they haven't like supercharted that. No one really knows how big North America is, like how wide it is. So they're assuming there's got to be just like a waterway or a short bridge of land that you have a water access to that connects the Atlantic to the Pacific. But you and I know that that is not true. That does not exist until the building of the Panama Canal in the early 1900s. So the Dutch hire a guy named Henry Hudson, and his job is to find the Northwest Passage. That is just the name given to the mystical the waterway that has to exist cutting through North or South America and hooking the Pacific to the Atlantic. Again, you and I know that doesn't exist, but a lot of explorers spent their life trying to find this thing. So feel free to watch this. It's a little cool NBC video about the Northwest Passage and how people look for it for so long until, we realized it doesn't exist. There's no way. So we do have the Dutch taking their claims in North America, trying to find that route to Asia. They just don't get as strong of a hold in the Americas as later countries will. So here's your other joint stock company that exists. Instead of the VOC, we have the English or British East India Company. Maybe you heard about it if you've seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They talk about how Captain Jack has a burn mark because he had a run-in with the British East India Trading Company. So again, They are this militaristic group supported by the government that are going out there to do merchant activities, to build the economy, to trade. So they mostly go and focus on India. India has cotton. And another thing that the British are doing while they're going over and they're tackling stuff in the Indian Ocean, they also go to the Americas, and Sir Walter Raleigh establishes Roanoke Colony. Roanoke is, I guess, infamously famous because it is a colony that they go back to get supplies and leave the colonists there. And when they come back a couple years later, because a war breaks out, there's no one left and the colony is gone and no one knows what happens to Roanoke. So it's not considered a very successful colony. Jamestown is built later. Jamestown is notably the first successful permanent colony in North America. This is before the Mayflower happens, which most kids know about, but Jamestown is the first. Named after King James, hence Jamestown. If you've seen Pocahontas, Jamestown, that's where they're settled. So the English go over and they explore lots of places in America. They start staking their claim. Again, they're also looking for a quicker route to Asia. They do not find one. The French get involved too. Their motive is to expand Catholicism. Jacques Cartier, or Jacques Carter, he claims northern North America in the name of France and calls it New France. They're not very creative in their names. And then Samuel de Champlain goes and explores the Caribbean. Quebec is probably their like jewel city, hence why people in Quebec still speak French. And their big merchant endeavor is furs. So if you've ever heard of fur traders, the French are very heavily involved in the fur trade in North America. So when it's all said and done by 1750, this is how the map is shaping up. So this is like at the end of Unit 3 and 4. Our end mark is 1750. This is what North America looks like and who has claimed what. So we can stop there for this one because historical development wise, we've already done Japan. We know they lock everyone out except the Dutch, and they do this inward turn and they're over Christianity just like the Chinese. And they just start focusing on retaining their own culture. So here's my mini lecture about the end of 4.2.